best of the best. And then you got me. I don't know about that. Thank you, Vince, and just bringing me in Emmanuel High School. It's always a privilege for me to get a chance to speak at any event to any age group, and I really enjoy that opportunity. First and foremost, a little bit about me. I've coached, as Vince was saying, Fresno Pacific for 5 years, Azusa Pacific for 2 years. I went on to coach in Kentucky this last year, and just moved back to California not too long ago, trying to figure out next step for me. Got engaged, trying to stay in California area, and so I wasn't doing anything. So I was happy to come in. So just excited to be here. Coached for 9 years, and the one thing that I know about coaches is that we're thieves. So that's the first point, is all coaches are thieves. And so throughout this speech, I'm going to use a handful of quotes. And as a coach, if you use a quote or a set or a defense enough, you eventually just think you came up with it. And so that happens a lot. I think I created the UCLA cut one time because I was using it so much. Not the case, but I might not give specific credit, so there might be a little plagiarism in here. And then the other thing with coaches is, if you just tweak something a little bit, then it's an original idea. So these are all very original ideas that I'm going to share with you. Let me just start with real quick, get your hands free. I like to start with this one. So it's just really simple. I just want you to clap when my hands cross. So right there, I want you to just clap once. So get your hands free. Oh, come on, you're athletes. Talk soft, play soft, be loud. I do that for 2 reasons. It's a good little wake up, and secondly, you guys just gave me an applause, so if I bomb this speech, thank you for the applause. I appreciate it already. Let me start with a little story. There's 3 frogs floating on a log down the river. Why? Because I think every good speech starts with something floating down the river. No, I don't know. So there's 3 frogs floating down the river on a log, and they come to this big turn in the river. And there's a big party going on, a restaurant, people are playing volleyball, leapfrog maybe. I don't know, that's enticing for frogs. So they're floating down the river, and 2 of the frogs out of the 3, they made a decision to jump off the log and go play volleyball and spend the day over there and eat and just, join the party, join the festivities. So the log keeps floating down the middle of the river, gets to another turn. My question to you is, how many frogs are on that log? If you think 1, raise your hand. 2 made a decision to get off. It's not a trick. I know you guys are all thinking 1. 3 frogs, why? There's 3 frogs, 2 jumped off. They made a decision to jump off. How many frogs? If you think 1, raise your hand. How many of you think 3? Yeah, nobody wants to answer because they don't want to be tricked. That's usually the way it goes, right? Like, I really think 1, but I'm not raising my hand. They made a decision. They made a decision to jump off. Now, isn't that like us so many times to think that decision means action? So if I can give you a scope in which to listen to the things, the points that I'm going to go across, that's my scope. There's still 3 frogs on that log. The fact that 2 of them made a decision means nothing, because decisions not followed with actions are just decisions. They're simply that. So as I kind of toyed with some ideas of what I wanted to speak about, I went through a couple of different ideas, and I came back to, what's my target audience? And my target audience, anytime in this realm, is the student athlete or the student, the age group of 16, 15 to 22, 23. And I think that's a really, really significant age group in what I love to share and who I like to speak to. And the reason is, during that age group, a lot of really fundamental things happen to you as a person. You start asking yourself the tough questions, which I'll get to. But it's the self-actualization stage, the coming into your own, being on your own for the first time, really defining who you are as a person, as an athlete, as a student, as a friend, as a daughter, as a son. You start to define those things. And those are really, really tough things to define, because you first must start with the tough questions. And it's not easy for 30-plus-year-olds to ask yourself these questions, and especially not this age group. But those questions are, who am I? What do I want to be? How do people view me? What are my passions? What are my ultimate desires? Those questions are really, really tough to ask yourself. But when you start to ask yourself those questions, you can really start to define who you want to be, where you want to go, what your passions are. And so, with those questions, let me help you, and here's how I kind of frame this. I thought to myself, I was talking to my fiance, and I was trying to figure out exactly how I wanted to frame what I wanted to speech, or what I wanted to say. And she said, well, what would you tell yourself at 17? Oh, okay, that's pretty profound. So what I did is I just made a simple list of 5 things, but really the last one's a story. So 4 things that I feel any 30-year-old plus would love to go back and tell the 17-year-old version of themselves to help you kind of through this next stage of life, this short stage. So it's a really simple title that I titled this list. It's called The Short List of What All 30-plus-year-olds Would Love to Teach the 17-year-old Version of Themselves If They Could list. So very simple there. 1, be careful who you let speak to your life and in your life. Big difference between in your life and to your life. So let's talk first and foremost who you let speak in your life. I would go as far as to say thousands of people speak in your life daily. With Twitter, when you put a twit on Twitter, I don't know if that's not good. Facebook, multimedia, text messages, music, movies, school, teammates. Literally thousands of people are speaking in your life daily. The tough thing to try to figure out is who you want to let speak to your life. Now understand the difference. Thousands of people are speaking in your life daily. Who you let speak to your life are the people that you will let affect your life. That could possibly make some fundamental changes in who you are. People who you respect their opinions. Families, close friends, teammates, coaches. There's a certain number of people, whether you know it or not, whether you've defined this group or not, there's a certain amount of people that you let speak to your life that can affect you with the words that they say. You know, one of the things that we learned when we were younger is sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. I don't believe that at all. I believe that is just off. Because I think that words make you, they break you, they build you up, they help define you, they can give you feedback and constructive criticism. People can call you out when you're not acting the way that you want to act or that you should act. So I think it's really important. So defining those people that you allow to speak to your life. Over these next couple of years, you're going to have a lot of people speaking in your life. And you're going to have to make a decision who do you let speak to your life. Because not everybody has your best interests. Not all your friends have your best interests. Not all of the people in your life, the music that you listen to, the music or the movies, who you follow on Twitter, all those different things, you've got to really define that. And I think that's an important part. One of the quotes that I love in that section is, seek those who seek the truth, and be cautious of those who say they found it. Seek those who seek the truth, be cautious of those who say they found it. So help yourself and define that, defining who you let speak to your life, by first and foremost understanding that you want to seek those people that are also seeking the truth, that are seeking positive things in their life. And I think that's really important. So looking at that in the scope that I created with the frogs, decisions and actions. What decisions are you making to control the people that you let speak to your life? What decisions are you making that says yes to this person and no to this person? And more importantly, the actions that you're taking. Are you putting yourself in good environments? Are you putting yourself with great teammates who you know are going to push you to get better? Are you putting yourself with fellow students that you know you can study and be successful in that realm of this next chapter? So that's really important. Quickly, just touching on best friends, because this section of your life is really interesting. For a lot of people, you develop some lifelong friends. You might think 15 of them, but maybe 2 or 3 of them will really be lifelong friends. And a really important thing for me is when I'm recruiting or talking to youth, you show me your best friend, and I can get a pretty good sense of who you are. So just think about that a little bit. Can you get an idea of who someone is if you really just spend some time with their best friends? And in this age, a lot of time that's true. So making sure that you're separating yourself, being your own person, defining yourself, but also hanging out with, spending time with positive people in your life. So it's really important to me. Okay, number 2 on the list. Living, loving, leading, succeeding all involve intense times of pain. See, people don't want to talk too much about that. Those are all positive words. How can that have pain in that? It's part of life. There are no ups without the downs. And so anytime you're succeeding at something, the chances are that you have went through some pain to succeed. A big thing for me is you show me a successful person in any realm of life, a successful parent, a successful athlete, a successful student, a successful business owner, and I will show you someone who has failed over and over and over again. Because until you are open to failing, you're not prepared to succeed. And I think that's a really valid point for this next chapter of your life, is understanding that it's not always going to be rainbows and butterflies. Sometimes it's going to be really tough, and you've got to use those and extrapolate the good things out of those tough times to help define yourself in a more positive way. You know, somebody was telling me the other day that trees that grow in a greenhouse will grow to a certain height. Whatever the greenhouse is, they'll grow to a certain height and they'll be healthy and they'll stay in there. Trees that are outside, that get weathered and beat up, what actually happens is they crack and they break and they twist and they turn, and through that process they're able to grow more and more and higher and taller and stronger. But it's through the process of it twisting and turning and breaking that it's able to grow. As is life, with anybody understanding how to turn some of those crucibles. Crucibles are those things that can define you as a person, the things that you have went through in your life that help define who you are at this moment. And you'll have many crucibles throughout your life. And some of them are very joyful, but some of them are also pain and maybe tragedy. So understanding that everything you go through will prepare you for who you're supposed to be. And I'll get into that in a little bit more. The biggest thing in that is comfort zones. Get out of your comfort zone. I like doing ball handling at the beginning of every day of camp or a clinic. And if I don't see people making a mistake, you know that they're just staying in their comfort zone. But those people who are not afraid to bounce the ball, sprint over here and grab it, get back, those are the people that are going to succeed faster, quicker, and more powerfully because they're not afraid to fail. So make sure you're getting out of your comfort zone in all areas of life and challenging yourself to be that tree in the wind that's cracking and growing at the same time. Quote for that: the depths of one's struggle will help determine the heights of their success. The depths of one's struggle will help determine the heights of your success. Third on the list, define yourself by something other than your activities. I see this over and over again. There's a real thing, I can't remember the exact term, but there's a real depression, and it has a name, for athletes when they're done with their playing careers. So a lot of my athletes, they get done with their 4 years of playing college ball, and there's a period of depression that comes with that, of trying to figure out what is next. And what I found over my years is those who do not define themselves as an athlete, as a basketball player, as a shooter, have an easier transition because you're defining yourself by something other than that, by your activities. So not athlete, student, artist, musician, but rather I'm kind, I'm open, I'm a positive, healthy communicator, I'm caring, I'm a mentor, I'm a leader. Those words have more power in helping you define who you are. So being an athlete, being a student, those are great vessels to figure out who you are. But if you're not able to ask yourself those tough questions that we said in the beginning, then you'll have a struggle in defining yourself on things other than your activities. Really interesting part of that is the reputation and character. I think this really goes hand in hand in this section, reputation and character. So a lot of times, if you look at it like this, we'll go back to the tree analogy. If you're a tree, That is your character. And the shadow that it puts off is your reputation. And a lot of times you've seen this shadow be huge on an object. But the character is the tree. That's who you really, really are. But you want to, sometimes we get caught up in portraying this big, huge shadow for all to see. That we are big and that we are successful in this and that. And the problem with that, and I think a lot of people can probably resonate with this, is when you lie to yourself, when you have made it okay to lie to yourself about who you are, your truth becomes your truth. Meaning, if you're lying to yourself so much that you believe it, then you believe it when you portray that shadow to everybody else too. And at some point that will be shattered. So make sure you're being honest with yourself and portraying a shadow that is in context with who you are. So, define yourself by something other than your activities. Quote for this one: your reputation is the shadow, your character is the real you. Be truthful and live out loud. That's a really, really interesting and tough thing to do. Live out loud. Meaning, is who you are in the fundamental state of a person, is that what you're also portraying? Live out loud. So I always tell my athletes, make sure you're living out loud. Know who you are and what you represent as an athlete, as a student, as a member of this university or school, and live out loud with that. So, fourth, work on your weaknesses, sharpen your strengths. This is a really interesting one to me. It kind of goes back to the sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me when you're younger. The other thing that we're instilled when we are young, it's constantly put us, is work on your weaknesses. Work on your weaknesses. You're not good at this, work on this. You're not good with your left hand, work on your left hand. You're not a good shooter, work on shooting. You're not funny, try to be more funny, whatever it is. We have all these things bombard us with who we let speak to our life and in our life, of trying to figure out how do you define yourself and working on the things that we are told we're weak at. Now I challenge that. I like to flip that on its head and say, yes, please work on your weaknesses. Know what you need to work on to be successful in life. But if you do not spend as much time, if not more, strengthening your strengths, you're doing a disservice to yourself. If you are funny, be more funny. Figure out how to use that humor to make you succeed in life. If you're a good three-point shooter, be a great three-point shooter. If you're good at math, be great at math. The things that define you as you get older and older are the things that you are great at. So make sure that you are strengthening those strengths. And last, number 5, this is more of a story, and then I'll finish. So I already got my 10 minutes. Where am I at? 18 minutes. I'll be done by 37 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. Sort of. Perfect preparation is a theory that I developed many years ago. I'm a coach, so I take credit. A lot of my players helped me with it. But started out very simply. I was at PF Chang's. I got a fortune cookie. It said, as long as you're facing in the right direction, all you have to do is move forward. Mind blown. I was like, this is amazing. I started just selling that to my athletes, to my friends. It's like I was going to that quote daily. As long as I'm facing in the right direction, all I have to do is move forward. And then soon, I think maybe one of my players asked, well, how do you know you're facing in the right direction? Again, I was like, oh, that's a really tough question. So I had to develop this idea of what does that mean? And so I kind of developed over the course of many years this idea of perfect preparation. So how do you know you're facing in the right direction? You put a goal that is innately a good goal, mind, body, and soul. And you walk towards that. You walk towards that goal. Can you have multiple goals? Yes. I'm walking towards goals academically, athletically, personally, emotionally. And you walk towards those goals. And a really interesting thing happens. If you know that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. I know some coaches are using that out there. Shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So if you know that you are on the right path, the right line, then all you have to do is move forward, right? Sometimes you feel like you're crawling because life is just kicking you down. And sometimes you feel like you're sprinting. You have great days. But by the grace of God, you take steps forward every day towards that. And sometimes we get off track, right? And we have to, okay, mind, body, and soul, good goal, and you walk towards that. Really interesting thing happens if you start to live by that principle. You have to accept all the good and all the bad on that path as perfect preparation for who you're supposed to be. See, if you can be honest with yourself in your mind that this is the path you're supposed to be on, then you also have to be honest with yourself that the things that you come across on that path are there to prepare you for who you're supposed to be. Everything you go through today prepares you for tomorrow. Everything you go through this week prepares you for next week, if you stay on that path. And that's where the honesty comes in. Can you be honest with yourself that you're on the right path? Or are you taken off by these people speaking to your life, and all of a sudden this is your path? Nobody walks a perfect line. But using that in context, this idea of perfect preparation, I think really helps. As long as you're moving in the right direction, as long as you're facing in the right direction, all you have to do is move forward and accept the ups and downs on that path to perfectly prepare you for who you're supposed to be. So, decisions and actions, right? Decisions and actions. What decisions are you making and following with swift action to continue moving on that correct path? So I'm going to finish with this quote. It's from Ida Ford. I hope you come to find that which gives you deep meaning, something worth living for, maybe something worth dying for, something that energizes you, enthuses you, enables you to keep moving forward. I can't tell you what it might be. That's for you to find, to choose, to love. I simply encourage you to start looking. This is the age. You are in the age to start asking yourself the tough questions, to start looking for what you want to be, who you want to be, and how you want to be. Find those passions and walk towards those passions, and good things will happen. Thank you very much. Now for a little shameless promotion. Vince put it on the website. I run a basketball camp at Azusa Pacific University, end of July, July 27th, and love to have anybody there. We have great coaches. All full-time high school or college coaches are my staff. So it's a really great camp, and if you want more information, we have it on the website, and please feel free to contact me. Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Let's give him one more, guys.